Welcome to Prime Cyber Insights. I'm Aaron Cole. Today, exploited vulnerabilities are dominating intrusions. Attackers are moving in hours, and the FBI just seized a major ransomware forum. So the big question is, what actually changes for defenders?
And I'm Lauren Mitchell. We'll walk through new numbers showing exploits behind a huge chunk of initial access, why patching still drags in the real world, and what the ramp takedown might signal for ransomware operations.
Let's start with the patch or perish trend. Cisco Talos says exploited vulnerabilities drove nearly 40% of intrusions in Q4 2025. That's the second straight quarter where exploits lead initial access, even after that Q3 spike tied to large-scale tool shell activity. And honestly, the takeaway isn't the exact percentage, it's the timing. Oracle EBS and React 2 Shell were reportedly getting hit right around disclosure, and proof of concept spread fast. If you're defending internet-facing apps, your risk window is basically hours now, not weeks.
Yep, and the reporting really shows how that window collapses. React 2 Shell had functional exploit code floating around within about a day, and AWS warned that state-backed actors can move within hours or days on maximum severity bugs. So that old rhythm, wait for a maintenance window, bundle fixes, test next month, it just doesn't match attacker tempo. If a service is exposed, disclosure can basically be the starting gun.
So why are so many enterprises still patching in months? It's complexity, it's fear of downtime, and it's also process gaps. And just to be clear, patch in hours doesn't mean reckless change. It means you already have an emergency lane that's pre-approved. You need an asset inventory that actually maps public exposure, a hotfix playbook for critical CVEs, rapid testing patterns, and clear authority to act. And when you can't patch immediately, you compensate by reducing exposure. Pull vulnerable endpoints behind a VPN, restrict access with allow lists, disable modules, turn off unused features, or temporarily move that service out of the direct blast radius.
Yes, this is where resilience meets governance. Leaders often want certainty before patching, but the certainty is that exploitation moves fast. A workable approach is to treat public-facing enterprise apps and default deployments in widely used frameworks as high risk by design. Then you tier it. Critical, externally reachable systems get immediate mitigations, and internal-only systems follow a shorter but safer validation cycle. And also, make sure your telemetry is actually ready. Talos emphasized logs. If responders show up and you've got no authentication logs, no web logs, no endpoint traces, you're basically blind.
Now, even with exploits leading, phishing is still right there at 32% of access cases. Talos pointed to campaigns targeting Native American tribal organizations, where successful phishes led to email account compromise, and then attackers used that access to run internal and external follow-on phishing. That's the pattern. One mailbox becomes a launchpad, and the victim's trust relationships do the scaling for the attacker.
That's notable because the advice is familiar, but the execution has to be sharper now. MFA everywhere, plus detection for MFA abuse. Think impossible travel, weird token refresh patterns, push fatigue signals, and risky OAuth app grants. And don't treat internal phishing like it's just a footnote. If an attacker is sending from a legitimate account, your secure email gateway might not save you. You need strong user reporting pipelines, rapid account quarantine, conditional access controls, and the ability to invalidate sessions quickly.
Let's shift to the other big headline. The FBI seized Ramp, a long-running forum that had positioned itself as a key marketplace and discussion hub, especially as other forums got disrupted. Ours reports both the clear web and dark web sites were taken over, and DNS now points to FBI-controlled infrastructure. We don't have public confirmation of arrests, but even the seizure alone can create real turbulence. Buyers lose vendors, escrow relationships break, and reputations get questioned overnight.
Wait, What? The defensive read here still has to be cautious. A takedown can fragment coordination and raise OPSEC anxiety, especially if user databases or messages were accessed, but it doesn't remove the underlying demand for access, malware, and laundering. We've seen ecosystems reform elsewhere, sometimes more distributed. And another point from the Talos data, ransomware cases dropped to 13% from 20% the prior quarter. That can mean consolidation, fewer groups, bigger operations, not necessarily less risk. So defenders should treat this as disruption, not victory.
All right, action items to close out. First, measure your exposure to patch time for internet-facing systems and set an hours-level lane for critical CVEs. Second, if you can't patch, reduce exposure immediately. Don't leave vulnerable endpoints hanging out on the open internet. Third, harden identity with MFA, plus monitoring for bypass and abuse. Fourth, log like you mean it, because you can't investigate what you didn't record.
And I'll add one more. Treat criminal market disruptions like ramp as short-term volatility. Your best hedge is disciplined basics, asset visibility, rapid mitigation, identity controls, and incident-ready logging. That's it for today. I'm Lauren Mitchell.
I'm Aaron Cole. Thanks for listening to Prime Cyber Insights. For more episodes, head to pci.neuralnewscast.com. Neural Newscast is AI-assisted, human-reviewed. View our AI transparency policy at neuralnewscast.com.